We just reminded everybody that on Monday, the 28th of November, I was remanded to prison for 2 days. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I was fortunate by birth that my parents sent me to one of the best schools in England, one of the best public schools. And a contrast from public school in England to a prison cell in Nigeria was a wonderful experience. There was a time I was younger, I owned nightclubs, so I kind of related a lot to what I thought I knew about this country. But what I realized sitting and being treated very, 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 very well, I saw across the room that lots of people had come against their luck. Every day in Nigeria, we see different people and they are all against their luck. The luck of everybody is against them in this country. Every day we blame our leaders, we blame this, but we hardly blame ourselves enough. The most important thing I would like to say is that I went into a prison cell, not a cell, I wasn't in the cell, I went into prison, whatever you may call it, for 2 days for something that every single responsible man in Nigeria should have gotten up to say, how possible is this? Some characters woke up one morning because they felt they had lost out to claim that a Supreme Court judgment was forged. All the NBA, all the SANs, all the judges in Nigeria, all the magistrates in Nigeria could not sit up and realize that for people to say a Supreme Court judgment was forged is a slap on Nigeria as a nation. People abroad will say, oh, so when the Supreme Court gives judgment, somebody can go and forge it, and we allow it to pass for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and keep saying just because some characters feel that the power is slipping out of their hands, they decide to ridicule the Supreme Court by saying, my humble self could go and forge a Supreme Court judgment. For any human being to open his mouth and say a Supreme Court judgment can be forged, you can tell his mindset. You can tell where he's coming from. And all Nigerians are not coming from the gutter. Nigerians are good people, hardworking people, intelligent people who have come against their luck. There are people who many of them have gone to university, many of them have very supposedly good jobs in the ministry, many of them have got good jobs in the police, many of them have got good jobs everywhere, but they're still up against their luck. And people get up to say a Supreme Court judgment was forged. The worst of all is that we get up and we call people excellency, excellency. Yes, they are excellencies. The wife of a governor is an excellency, and she's an excellency forever. A wife of a former governor of a state in Nigeria for 8 years, who got to the pinnacle of her career as a number 2 person in the Supreme Court, retired, and because of maybe all the things that were going on, and my passionate letter writing to say, please, these people, this is the situation, gave me a reply. That reply was served on both every aspect, the police, the Supreme Court, everybody was served. And then a character who has been trying to twat, who I said previously, I'm sure the IG does not know about, gets up in court on Monday to say he's dragging the former Supreme Court judge into the court to give evidence she'll be locked up. What gives him the temerity to say that? Every single person in Nigeria should get up and caution the people. People are bought in the Supreme Court to write letters to say the Supreme Court judgment was tampered with. People in INEC push away the Supreme Court judgment, which they could go and clarify properly. They were served by the bailiff of the Supreme Court, and they decide to say it is a forgery. Do they think it is me that they are doing? They are dealing with themselves. What I saw in that place I went is that Nigeria is on a time bomb. And we who think that we are doing well are sitting, including me, are sitting on it. We must be very, very, very careful. Very, very, very careful. And the only thing we should pray for and have is the rule of law. I need it. All of us need it. The privileged need it more than the poor people. Because that rule of law is what will save our lives in this country. And anybody who can open their mouth and say that a Supreme Court judgment has been forged must be brought in to come and confirm how he got that information. For 4 months, they were running around from pillar to post claiming that the Supreme Court judgment was forged. Police investigated. They found nothing. They didn't arrest me. All they could do is to try and use a bench warrant to try and stop me down, and then remand me to jail. But luckily, I'm sure the judge himself looked through the papers carefully, and I was given bail on my personal cognizance. I wasn't asked to bring anybody to give me bail as the national chairman of the party. Every single person, including Charles Soludo, knows I'm the national chairman of the party. Charles Soludo is not worried about me removing him. How can I remove him? Most people want to have one small stooge in their pocket that they can be send there as national chairman. If he wants to negotiate with PDP, he will bring him. National chairman, go and negotiate. I am not the negotiating type. APGA, if we are not in the party was formed for engagement. We will look at Nigeria and know how to engage properly. This election might not even come to one person winning. It might come to be a runoff. In a runoff, we will engage for our people for the best. She's from Boronu. He's from Katsina. He's from Anambra. He's from Ondo State. He's from Delta. He's from Imo. He's from Kwara. He's from Katsina. He's from Katsina. Everybody, every single person should know that the APGA now is not the APGA we're waiting for to get a governor, use it and run around to do business. Business in APGA has ended. There is no longer any more business in APGA. The warning to all those people who are still hobnocking with Victor Oye. I'm a strong Christian. She is a strong Muslim. My secretary is a strong Muslim. He's a strong Muslim. He's a very strong Christian. He's a very strong Christian. Any strong Muslim or strong Christian believes in his word. We will not victimize anybody. But I assure you that if those people who are in the executives or whoever they are, even candidates, do not come forward as quickly as possible and show their hand, everything will be finished appropriately. I'm watching my words, but those who have a long enough tongue, use it and count their teeth. Don't come and tell me later that you were my classmate or you were my ally, you were my friend. All of us are APGA. Come to the table of APGA today. Let's move forward. Forewarned is forearmed. This is the last warning. Oye was never the national chairman of APGA. He was never in Owerri. The conventions that held in Owerri, I emerged as national chairman. Unfortunately, I was removed in Jigawa, and Victor and Judo Keke was put in immediately by INEC. If it's not Wayo here and there, would it not be immediately the Supreme Court now puts me, we should have been there? But that's one of the things we expect in Nigeria. I have nothing against anybody. This rubbish of Supreme Court judgment being forged, members of the press, you should rise to the occasion. Give you an example, Channels has never for once brought the side of this side onto the air. They only go for Oye. Maybe they have more dollars. It should not be done like that. News should be balanced. If you take from this side, you listen to this side. You don't just start putting on your disclaimer under when you know someone is saying something wrong. Do the right thing. Oye's tenure ended in 2019. He was never part of a Owerri Convention. The Supreme Court have made the amendment, and this is part of the executives of APGA. Stop listening. Stop listening to rumor mongers. Stop listening to people who just want to cause confusion. APGA is now ready to move forward. Please, I beg Victor Oye, I beg all those people who are in his former NWC, and I seriously beg again the governor of Anambra State. You are our only governor. You must be on the side of peace. That's what your name says. That it means soludo. That's something to do with peace. If you read it from one side. It is not only PDP and APC that are in the presidential. There is APGA. There is, and the rest. When we sort ourselves out, we will know what we want to do within from the party. You don't go out and telling us that PDP will either win or APC. It is not, he is not speaking for APGA. He's speaking as the governor of Anambra State. I have nothing against him. I'm not after his seat. We are trying to win as many governors as we can in 2023. We are working to win as much Federal House members in 2023, as much senators, as much House of Assembly members. All those who have sympathy for APGA, please rally around for us to do well in 2023. The setback has been so much. I have no annoyance towards anybody for going to Suleja for 2 days. Honestly, on my honor as a Catholic, I learned so much. I thank God, and I thank God for giving me that fantastic experience. If there's anything else anybody wants to ask, please, I'm free to answer it. But thank you very much. I don't see how a forgery case will be just about two politicians on one side. If there's forgery, there should be somebody else who is involved in forgery. And after all that said and done, the former lead judge has cleared the air with her response on that. We should focus on the content of the letter and not who it was written to. The contents of the letter is that someone who we know as an excellency, someone who we know as a renowned, I don't think any of us here can, if we get to where she got to, we will be forever, we will always be eulogized for it. So, has come out to say what she said. My annoyance with the press and everyone is that I don't see why somebody who is a loser in a battle will rush out and say he forged, and they run along with it and they ask me some questions. They run along. Is it not the police or the Supreme Court who will say this man forged our document? It is not Oye who was removed who would say I forged. It is the Supreme Court who will say I forged their document. You know, it's also the press that has brought a lot of the confusions like this. The question he should ask himself first is, why did Judo Keke, who went through the same conventions I did, why was he recognized as the national chairman of the party when I was suspended? Before we start going further, to give you more information, which you as a pressman, I'm sure, should have done his due diligence, is to know that Victor Ikoye took me to court after our convention. He was the claimant. He charged me and APGA, me as first defendant and APGA as second defendant. When we replied our pleadings, made our defense, he decided to pull out of that case. At that point, we went on a mandamus impelling INEC to recognize me because he had injunctions on me and on APGA to not recognize me. But the greatest one of all was that there was a counterclaim by APGA on him. when he withdrew that case, saying that he is not the national chairman of APGA and I am the national. That is in Abuja here. I'm sure as a good person, I'm sure you have it, but maybe you've not read it. Those are the areas. Those are the areas you should be asking those questions. I saw you in that press conference that Oye did, the one that Channels covered live. You never asked him about Mary Odili's letter. Okay, oh sorry. Or maybe someone wearing the kind of hat you were wearing. So nobody asked any question. Nobody asked him any question to ask him, how do you know it's forgery? Do you just wake up from your sleep and say someone forged the document? And say somebody forged the document? Do you just wake up and say that?